Welcome to Nonsense, Season 3, Episode 41, our big story and our second show of the week. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Stu Little.
This time we're looking at game show heists. The day Press Your Luck met its match. Up next. Are you a game show fan?
For sure. I spent a lot of time watching game shows as a kid. Like
when you're sick,
when I was
right?
home from school. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was like, we had, 4 channels. So it's pretty much all you could watch.
Yeah.
Any variation of N Dollar Pyramid was always a win for me.
Loved it.
Press Your Luck, because you had the little animated whammy guy. That was always fun.
Sure.
Let's Make a Deal was great, because there was just some sort of like carnival trading going on in there.
I'll give you $100 right now if you have a hairpin in your purse.
I loved that. Where it was like literally like you just had gone to a carnival or on television.
For some reason, he had the free time in the show that he could do whatever he felt like, whatever came to mind. And
Totally.
It was great fun.
I will give you $100 for 1 Bitcoin if you have that in your pocket.
Exactly.
How about you?
I liked watching the match game. It
of
was
course.
super fun.
Sure.
Insanely racist and sexist moments thrown in just for good measure.
Yeah.
There are whole episodes that don't air in repeats for
now.
whatever reason. But wow, the ones that actually still get through, you're like, wow, that was on television. Interesting.
Totally. I mean, I still can't resist Jeopardy.
Yeah, sure.
My parents would pretty much always watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy back to back, I think, from as long as I can remember. One of my favorite memories of them, they'd just be, after dinner watching Jeopardy, I'd be like in the other room doing dishes, just yelling out the questions to the answers that were read, which I always thought was amusing when I would actually get them right.
My kid and I like to play pop culture Jeopardy. He particularly likes to play because I know nothing about current pop culture. The lyrics from hip-hop songs for 1,000, Colin.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know none of the answers, but it's still really fun to me.
I've always wanted to go on the weakest link so that in one of the early rounds, when presumably I answer strongly, I could vote myself off just to kind of piss off and earn the ire of Ann Robinson. So spar with her for a few minutes on TV. I thought that'd be fun.
I think you'd do better on Heads or Tails.
Yes,
that seems like more your speed.
Have you seen that?
I have.
I'll put a link in the show notes. That is fantastic. They took a game show that is about 90 seconds long and stretched it out into an hour in conversation. It's actually pretty funny. I wish they actually made Gold Case, which was fantastic.
Jack McBrier's game show idea on 30 Rock, based on the briefcases of Deal or No Deal.
Yes, but the case was filled with gold.
Absolutely hilarious.
$1 million of gold. Oh, it's hysterical. There's always going to be one model who's like super ripped, who's just holding the thing up. Pick her.
Okay, game show hackers, the Press Your Luck code breaker up next. Let's go.
Whammy time.
From fixed questions and coded coughs to hidden patterns and sophisticated tech, game shows have always promised dreams of instant riches. But behind the glitz and glamour, a darker truth sometimes lurked. That the game was hacked, not only by contestants driven by greed or desperation, but occasionally rigged by the producers themselves, seeking ratings. The line between clever strategy and outright hacking can blur, threatening to expose television's most beloved contests as mere illusions.
Sure.
Let's go from light to dark, starting with an easy one, where the game itself has a mathematically advantageous way to play. You have to be familiar with the Monte Hall problem.
Yes, the Monte Hall problem is one of my favorite problems. This is basically a brain teaser that not just like regular folk got wrong, but mathematicians got wrong.
Yeah.
This was postulated in the 70s, the mid-70s.
I use this problem to interest my kid in probability when he was first learning probability in school. And I wanted my kid to really be interested in it because I'm really interested in it. I love odds, probability, combinations, permutations.
I like the New England Patriots. You've got to like the New England Patriots.
The Monte Hall problem is a great way to pull people into those topics.
So for folks that aren't dinosaur dorks like us and haven't seen Let's Make a Deal, the construct is very simple. You'll have like 3 doors. You get to pick one. In theory, there are even odds. You have a 1 in 3 chance of picking the big prize. The big prize is going to be like a car or something.
The other 2 doors are goats. They're things that are worthless.
Well, hold on now. I am assuming that you want the car. Some people might want the goat. I don't know. I've been to Costco Business Center. You can buy a whole goat. It's $3 a pound. So maybe they just want the goat.
I don't think you actually got the goat.
I always wondered that. Like when they open the thing up and there's a goat.
We'll give you the cash equivalent of the goat. You're not taking our goat.
You pick one of the doors blindly, right? You have a 1 in 3 chance. There are 3 doors. You pick one. You have a 1 in 3 chance.
Yeah.
Each door has a 1 in 3 chance. Let's just say you pick door number 1.
Yeah.
Monte will then open a door. Now he's never going to open the door with a car in it. He's going to open the door with a goat in it and say, oh, look, well, hey, here's door number 3. It has a goat in it.
You're glad you didn't pick this one.
Do you want to change your guess? The sort of intuition is that your odds have not changed. The intuition is picking door number 2 would still be a 1 in 3 chance. That intuition is wrong.
Yeah.
What is right is when you picked door number 1, you had a 1 in 3 chance. The other 2 doors combined had a 2 in 3 chance. When Monte opens door number 3, those odds of 2 in 3 collapse into door number 2. Yeah. So you are doubling your odds by switching every time. It doesn't matter what you pick initially, you are doubling your odds by switching every time. And that is the answer, right? It has been absolutely proven that that is the answer. What I find fascinating about this is most people get wrapped around the Axel, even again, mathematicians, as I said earlier, there was one in particular, like he had to see it proven in iterations where they just ran like computer simulations of this until he would believe it. So it is one of those interesting problems, very similar to the birthday paradox. The birthday paradox is another fascinating one. Once you have 23 people in the room, the odds of having two people with the same birthday is over 50%.
The number of people required is actually very small.
Very low. Most people don't believe that, but when you look at the math, you go, oh, this actually makes sense. Because you're looking for a pair amongst all of the 23, not a specific pair. And when you've got 23 people in the room, you've got something like, I think, almost 300 different pairs of folks. So one of them hitting is pretty likely.
Okay, let's talk about Michael Larson. Was he a genius hacker of the Press Your Luck game board or simply a meticulous observer who exposed a design flaw? He was both, really, right?
Kind of both. I mean, my definition of hacker would certainly apply to him. He took the system and found flaws in the system and exploited them to his advantage. To me, there's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing illegal to me in the definition of hacker. He just exploited the system to his benefit. They ultimately changed the show, and they're sort of like, oh, grumpy about Michael Larson. It's like, well, actually, you should write him a check.
Yeah.
Like, he found the exploits in your system.
This is like being nasty to a hacker who breaks into your system and does no harm.
Yeah.
He did something very helpful for you. He showed you how your system can be penetrated. He showed you the flaws of your system.
These were the debates that I got into 20 years ago. They happen much less frequently now. Right after Kevin Mitnick got out of prison, folks would be polarized. They were just like, oh, this guy's terrible. And I would instead say, well, actually, couldn't you think of him as like a security consultant? He basically found exploits in your system that you then patched.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't owe you for the cost of those patches. You owe him for finding those. Most folks would not glom on to that particular view.
He's a security expert who you didn't hire, but he didn't cause
Pro bono,
any
offering
harm.
his services for free. That was that, but folks didn't choose that view.
All right, backtrack. Let's explain who Michael Larson was and how he figured out where the whammies were on the board.
Let's go back to 1984. Michael Larson is an ice cream truck driver from Ohio. He goes on Press Your Luck and just breaks every record they've ever had. A little background, I guess, on Larson. This guy was known for, quote, always running some little scam or another, right? Starting in like middle school. And some stuff sort of innocuous, like in middle school, he sold candy bars at a marked up price. All right, you're maybe an entrepreneur.
Not just sure that's a scam. He's providing a service.
But then he progressed to registering businesses under family members' names so that he could fire himself and collect unemployment.
Sure, that's a scam.
That's a scam. I guess at one point, as the story goes, was watching a bunch of televisions. I think he worked in like a TV store and was like, oh, there's got to be a way. Yeah. Something I can do to make money here. And he saw Press Your Luck and immediately thought, okay, there's got to be a pattern here. There's something going on. Bought himself a VCR, started recording Press Your Luck, and then pretty quickly realized that it wasn't random. The selection on the board wasn't random. What was happening was one of 5 sequences, and he mapped them all out. Like the guy bought a VCR, probably did a lot of pausing.
Yeah, a lot of frame by frame.
Mapped it out, and he learned 2 things. One, that there were these 5 patterns, and 2, there are something like 18 squares, 17 or 18 squares on the board. There were 2 squares that never showed a whammy. So if you memorized the pattern and you knew when it was going to go to one of those 2 squares, number 4 or number 8,
you were good.
You would never get a whammy. You could just keep playing. Oddly, they would usually have the space would include another spin. So you could just keep going sort of ad infinitum. And that's what he figured out. So he mapped this out, supposedly spent his last money buying a ticket to Hollywood, right? Came out to LA, auditioned, got on the show, even though the contestant producer was like, yeah, I don't think so.
I got a weird feeling about this guy.
Yeah. But the executive producer says this guy's great, kind of wins him over, and overrules the contestant coordinator, brings him on the show. That's when sort of all hell breaks loose. He's on this taping. Now, just to be clear here, Press Your Luck is a half-an-hour show.
Okay.
It normally runs in half an hour. They have some filler in there, in case the show is short, talking to the contestants, whatever.
Always.
Every episode I've ever seen, half an hour. It's a very easy show. You answer some trivia questions, you play the board, whoever wins the most money wins.
Taped in front of a live studio audience.
Taped in front of a live studio audience, right? Like kind of quintessential 80s game show. Now, when Larson shows up, all of that goes out the window because his first stop on the board is a whammy, but he was calibrating his timing of pushing the button for when it stops on the board, right? You got to figure that out.
Sure.
That was the last whammy he got. The first one was the last one he got. In the second half of the game, in his first 15 spins, he would occasionally miss his safe squares at number 4 and number 8, but avoided whammies and earned about $30,000 in 1984 dollars. In his next set of spins, so this is beginning with spin 16, he landed only on squares 4 and 8 for 29 consecutive spins.
Wow.
So he hit his safe squares 29 times in a row, totaling over $100,000, again in 1984 dollars.
Yeah.
After his 44th spin, he was losing focus. And on spin 45, Larson missed the extra spin squares. And he said, I remembered that moment. I was just so drained, I suddenly forgot where the whammies were. So I stopped and passed control of the board to the other players. I felt so relieved that it was over.
Yeah.
So he had gone 45 spins without hitting a whammy. And netting himself 110 grand.
Which meant they didn't get to go to a commercial break. The show had to be incredibly long. The way the show was structured, you could shut down if somebody lost all their money. That was a great time to go to a commercial. So you don't have a commercial now. Your tape's an hour long.
And what they did, I'll put the links in the show notes. You can actually watch this on YouTube. They took like a frame grab and then green screen the host over the frame grab. And he would just be like, okay, here's what's going on. We're going to go to commercial or see you tomorrow. This aired on like a Friday and they brought the second half back on Monday. They split this show into two, which is amazing. One of my favorite things that I think goes unnoticed is on one of the frame grabs, it's like Larson with his arms up in the air, right? Cheering. And his competitor next to him literally has his head in his hands. Like he just looks so distraught.
I'm never going to get a turn. What's the story?
Never going to get a turn and never going to make $100,000. Also, the other thing that I noticed that I think is funny, the guy had so much money, right? He got into 6 digits. He got into 100 grand, which I don't think anyone else has ever even gotten close to. They ran out of room on his scoreboard for the dollar sign.
Sure.
There was no dollar sign. It's just a number. All the other people have like $3,000 and like, ooh, you've got a lot of money. And he's like, no, I've got 110 grand. It's pretty fascinating. You should really watch the show notes.
And the crew was really excited because they were going into platinum time.
Yeah, exactly. The crew's getting paid triple time because they've been there for an extra hour and a half.
Can hacking a game show's mechanics like Michael Larson did be considered cheating? Because no rules are explicitly broken, right? He's within the system of the game.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I don't think you can consider it cheating because, again, they had rules for the game and he was playing within those rules. Even the executives for the show afterwards, they were like, well, we don't want to pay this guy. You know, he did something. And they poured through the rules. Like, he didn't break any rules. He just memorized the board.
You just had too few patterns.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's really the answer.
Too easy to memorize.
But more abstractly, your game just had a flaw in it. This is the same thing with counting cards in blackjack. Most people think it's illegal. It's not illegal. The casino wants it to be illegal. It's not illegal to do this in your head. It is illegal to use a device to do it. But as long as you're doing it in your mind, there's no violation, because how would you make a law that would say, well, you can't think too well.
Sure,
you can't.
sure.
Well, actually, that could work in some states. Now that I think about it.
Okay.
Maybe that does work. Hey, we'll come back to that. That'll be another show. You know, with counting cards, you're just keeping a running total in your head and then using those odds to your advantage. I'd argue that that's directly analogous to what Larson did on Press Your Luck.
Casinos have a way of making those odds decline by using infinite shoes and things like
now,
that.
Yeah, continuous shufflers now have pretty much ruined your ability to count cards because you don't know how big the set is. So you can have, infinite count.
Let's talk about Terry Kniess's perfectly accurate bid on The Price is Right. Was it a testament to his mathematical skill, or did he have inside help?
Great question. Technically, it depends on who you ask and whose explanation you believe. Yeah. So Terry Kniess was the contestant on The Price is Right. Just a little background on this. He bid correctly on the contestants row. So it was, ironically, get a big green egg, bid it exactly. And I'm like, okay, cool.
If I were to ask you right now the cost of a big green egg, there's actually several models, and I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
But let's say I knew the deluxe.
I own most of them.
Would you be able to tell me to the dollar what they cost?
No.
I don't think so.
Well, no, that's unfair, though. I have a disease. I just buy them. I just walk in and buy them. There's no...
You don't look at the price.
It doesn't matter what the price is. They could just be like, this phone comes with a 30-year mortgage. Okay, sure, I'll take 2.
This one's going to my house right now.
Exactly. Every time I find 3 square feet of space on my deck, I immediately find another egg to place in its location. So he nailed the price of the big green egg. Okay, awesome. And then something in his game, he screwed up. He misheard something. He then spun and got 90 cents on the wheel, getting him to the Showcase Showdown. In the Showcase Showdown, it's like a trailer, there's a pool table, there's some other little stuff.
A handful of items.
He bids a very round number of $23,743 is what he says to Drew.
A number you would just pull out of the thin air.
Yes. If you watch the video, which I'll also put in the show link notes, it's not very compelling. It doesn't look like this was a number somebody just sort of thought up. And even Drew's like, wow, that's a very specific number.
Sure.
Terry claims that this exact bid was because of 2 things. He knew the cost of the prizes. He knew that trailers were about $1,000 a foot and pool tables were $3,000. Trailer was 19 feet. Therefore, he gets them to like 22 grand. And then he picked 743 because the number was what he and his wife used for their pin. Okay. There's a couple problems with this.
So many problems.
Right? Yeah. 1, he misheard the length of the trailer. 2, how many pin numbers have you ever had that are 3 digits and not 4 digits?
Absolutely 0.
So it's like, okay, your story's got a few holes in this. Let's enter an alternate explanation. There is a super fan well known to the show and any fans of the show named Ted Slauson. He was in the audience that day. Ted is known to have memorized and made a database of every prize on the show up until this point.
Because there there weren't that many prizes.
There weren't
It was
that many prizes.
a finite
Yeah,
number of prizes. You could memorize the list and their prices.
And it was a small number.
You could add them up on the fly.
And they didn't change them. They didn't change the options of those prizes much. Ted would go through and memorize all this. He literally had like flashcards that he would run through to remember all the prices.
Sure.
And he'd come sit in the audience. He loved being in the audience, and he would yell out prices. And the show actually endorsed this. They didn't love him being there, but they endorsed folks yelling out prize numbers.
Yeah.
Ted was yelling out the exact number because he knew it, that particular showcase, and everything was in the showcase. You see in the video, you sort of see Terry look out into the audience. Supposedly he's not looking at Ted because Ted was outside of his eyesight and he was looking at Linda. Who knows? But as the story goes, Ted is pretty confident that Terry heard him and used that number.
Or did Linda repeat Ted's number? I mean, she could have yelled it out having heard it from Ted and relayed it, and he could get her voice.
There was an even better show when Barker was still hosting where some kid got a perfect bid on the contestants row, and Bob asked him how he did that, and the kid literally pointed to Ted Slauson in the audience.
Sure.
And Bob went, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So
that makes perfect sense.
Like they knew this was happening, and Barker thought it was great. He endorsed it, which I think he sort of
they liked it.
Have to do. Yeah. No matter whose version of the story you believe, this is still just rote memorization. Someone memorized the prices, whether it was Terry, whether it was Ted. Personally, I believe it was Ted. It's just memorization, which again, how can you have a rule against memorization? Like you're not allowed to watch other episodes of the show. The show has corrected this, by the way. What they do now, they use a bigger supply of products.
Of vendors, sure.
Yep. They intermix options on this. Like if it's a car, they'll delete the radio or add something. They'll do something to throw the price around.
All right, so we're going to get a little darker. We're going to get really dark at the end. But we're just step by step. Up until now, benign. Things you're allowed to do.
Fun.
Everyone's obeying the rules.
Yeah. Something you'd say at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Just flaws in the game show. And then there's Charles Ingram, who wins nearly £1 million because of a series of suspicious coughs.
Yes.
It became the coughing major scandal.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
Oh, that's a fun one. This was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in the UK. Charles Ingram was a contestant. Seemed like a fairly intelligent contestant. Mm-hmm. In his first day of shooting, didn't do so great. So they hatched a plan. This plan was, I don't know how to say it in British English, but in American, we would just say bulletproof because this plan had no holes in it whatsoever. Here was the plan. Charles, who was the contestant, would get the question. So Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You get a question. You have 4 potential answers. Charles would then read back the answers as if musing aloud.
Part of why this works is the format of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which is a very short quiz show stretched out over a lot of time.
Yes.
So they're trying to fill a lot of time with like dramatic buildup and tension. There's a lot of time for him to...
They let you talk.
Yeah, they let you talk. They let you say what you think the list of answers are.
Yes. Which number encoding system includes letters? And you'd be like, well, binary, octal, hexadecimal. So this is exactly. That was the plan. The plan was Charles would read through the answers himself right after the host would. And then one of the fellow contestants, this Tequan Whitcock, who was a college lecturer and a contestant on the show, he would cough, or sometimes it would actually be Charles's wife, Diana. They would cough at the correct answer. So as he would read them, they would cough on it. And then Charles would magically gravitate and settle on that answer. And his acting skills on a scale of 1 to 10 were about a 2.5. Like they were not great. The part that gets me about this plan is you would have thought these folks who were supposedly smart would have known that they were taping the show and that they could go back and watch it again and listen for the coughs. Like you literally have left an evidence trail.
Sure. You would have thought the Houston Astros beating a trash can to telegraph when the off-speed pitches were coming.
Yeah, but no one would think about that, beating a trash can.
This show is being taped. There's going to be someone who's going to go back and find out. All of you are cheating. The entire team. You're all in on this cheat.
There should just be like a Hall of Fame of cheaters, and it would just be Ingram next to the Astros. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So that was his plan. They did this. Ingram crew did this over a dozen times. Maybe you get away with it once, maybe twice.
Yeah.
After that, your goose is cooked. Like a dozen times, that's more than just some loose correlation.
By the way, the audience has mics on them as well, because you want the sound of the audience and their reactions and things. So that cough, that sniff, whatever the cue is, you're going to hear it.
Yeah, it was just not a good plan. It's just not well baked.
What happens when the hackers aren't the contestants, but the very people running the show?
Oh, yeah, even worse.
Like, go back to the 21 scandal.
This is like mid-50s, right? 1950s. Television is still kind of new.
In its infancy.
Yeah. And, people have trusted these game shows to be legitimate. This is just a regular thing, and these are people competing on a show.
Sure.
So 21, which was this quiz show on NBC, they first aired it, and it was like these really hard questions. You had people that were just agonizing over them, sweating profusely, and the ratings were terrible.
Yeah.
Like, it just wasn't a good show. They weren't getting the questions right, so it just did not make for good TV.
You know what makes for great TV?
Cheating.
Somebody winning a ton of money.
Yeah.
Somebody who's just incredible at this.
Totally. Geritol was NBC's big sponsor for this show. They wanted nothing to do with it after this initial run. They were just like,
no one's watching. Yeah.
No one's watching. Why would we? So the plan was for the producers to kind of spice things up a little bit.
Sure.
And by spice things up, what they really meant was just cheat.
Sure.
Just rig the whole thing. And that's what they did. They started coaching contestants on which answers to say, when to pause dramatically, when to look just tortured. And they kind of gave them acting notes on this show. And they told the contestants that it's not cheating, it's entertainment, right? We're going to blur the lines between...
It's not really a game show. It's really just a piece of entertainment. It's very much like War of the Worlds. Orson Welles perfectly imitated a news broadcast and said Martians are coming, and you believed news broadcasts because they were all telling you the truth before. So a lot of people believed Martians are coming, and eventually they broke in and said, this is a dramatization. This is not actually a newscast. But the trick was they made it sound exactly like a newscast. They made this look exactly like a game show. They told the contestants, no, it's entertainment.
The analog to War of the Worlds, I think, is really a great one, because that was something where the reason War of the Worlds worked was because they were able to violate the trust of the listener. Personally, I think War of the Worlds was art, fantastic art. I don't feel the same about 21.
Yeah, sure.
21 feels like it was not exactly art. They get this guy, Charles Van Dorn, who's this like clean-cut Ivy League. He's the son of literary royalty, was fairly charismatic, and they fed him answers to beat the challenger, Herb Stempel, who was this sort of nerdy underdog. They wanted Van Dorn to win in dramatic fashion, which he did. And everything would have been fine if Herb kept his mouth shut.
Herb didn't like this, understandably.
And he didn't. Herb did not like this. He blew the whistle, which ended in a whole sort of congressional investigation that exposed multiple rigged shows. It led to mass public outrage, tanked careers of folks that had worked on these shows, and resulted in Congress enacting a law banning quiz show fixing, which you'd think didn't need to be a law, but here we are.
When you're broadcasting, you need to be telling the truth, is basically what we're saying.
Which seems reasonable, and you would think something would be sort of understood, but apparently was lost on folks.
Clearly a carve-out for reality television shows that are scripted that we pretend aren't.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I get lost on this, because I'm like, well, wait a minute. We said in the 50s you can't do this, and then now we just do it all the time. There's just the contestants are instead reality show members. And you're like, all this stuff is basically acting. Little follow-up on this. Charles Van Dorn did not talk about this. He did testify to Congress, was in tears, and then he vanished. He wrote under a pseudonym for a while, ended up becoming a low-profile editor at the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Because he was a smart dude.
Well, yeah. Writing for the Encyclopedia Britannica is basically like witness protection for nerds. Like, you just go there.
I guess,
Your name's buried somewhere in the preface of the book.
Not bad.
And you just get to play around with knowledge all day and write it down.
Okay, lots of other scandals at the same time in 1950s television. Something like 75% of the game shows were cheating to get ratings. They were doing things to heighten their dramatic presentation. Just briefly, list off a bunch of them and tell me what they were doing.
21 gets most of the notoriety of the time. I think it was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, but it was far from the only one. You had the $64,000 question. You had tic-tac-toe, the big surprise, the $64,000 challenge, and then one of my favorites, which was Doto. Doto, the way that they caught these guys was one of the contestants found a dropped quote-unquote notebook in one of the other contestants' dressing rooms that had all the answers in it. And it's like, oh, okay.
If you're following the trajectory of this episode, you're seeing we're getting darker and darker and darker.
Yeah, it's an eclipse.
Have there been full-on Stranger Than Fiction show participants?
Yes.
Did a fugitive actually win big on Super Password?
Yes. This is early 1988, so January 1988. This guy appears on Super Password. His name is Patrick Quinn. And over 4 episodes, he wins a total of $58,000, right? Which in $1988 is pretty good.
Yeah, it's real money.
Including a huge $55,000 bonus, round prize, all legit performance. No cheating, nothing sketchy about it. He did it above board.
Not gaming the show.
Nope, not at all. The problem was his name was not actually Patrick Quinn. So when this episode aired, viewers in Alaska immediately recognized Patrick Quinn from their local news. He was actually Carrie D. Ketchum, a fugitive wanted for a string of fraud charges across Alaska and Indiana, including credit card fraud, auto dealership scams, and insurance fraud tied to his ex-wife's death's insurance payout. Wow. He had a fake name. He used fake documents. He had a fake SSN and a fake driver's license. Production didn't catch it. So they're just like, okay, this guy looks legit. The alias, by the way, he used was a professor of his from college, which I thought thought was also funny. And he claimed during breaks on the show that he was a, quote, listening post contractor for the CIA in Alaska. Why he would do that, beyond me.
Great way to draw attention to yourself.
Why would you draw more attention to yourself? So episode airs. This bank manager in Alaska tips off the Secret Service. They coordinate with the producer of Super Password, which is Mark Goodson Productions, and they arrange to have Ketchum come in to retrieve his check in person, right? And he got $58,000.
Sure.
You're going to come pick up the check. You want to get the money. And they had like Secret Service agents waiting for him. Dude shows up, in the Goodson offices in LA, tries to make a run for it. He's caught after like dashing down 11 flights of stairs. He's hiding in a restroom. Big surprise. He is arrested on outstanding warrants in Indiana for the fraud investigation in Alaska, pleads guilty to mail fraud in 88, got a 5-year prison sentence. The best part of this to me is the game show producers rescinded his winnings, citing violation of eligibility in the rules by using a false identity.
Yeah.
You got a show that probably was pretty highly rated because it had a fugitive on it, got some good content. Don't have to pay him.
Sure. You don't have to pay out. He lied to you.
I feel like they should they should advertise in whatever the newspaper is that goes out to the prisons. They should just be like looking for contestants. Like, why not? Just have them all come on with aliases.
You watch Match Game occasionally now, the old Match Game episodes, and occasionally at the end you'll see a card that says that the winner didn't get the winnings because they won under false pretenses. It did happen.
Totally.
Rather than scrap the show, because the cute things the celebrity said was fine.
You've already produced the show.
Let's not lose that.
Totally.
Right. You paid for the show. Let's just not give him his winnings. And that's what happened.
Anyway, that was the Patrick Quinn story.
We had a Name That Tune show that was in Spain. A popular show, went on for a long time. And a contestant was using Shazam, literally the app Shazam on her phone to get answers.
Okay, so this is like June of 2014. This is this Spanish show called
pah-sah-pah-LAH-brah. Of course, it's a famous show.
Pah-sah-pah-LAH-brah. I don't even understand why you'd have a word like that. It just hurts my mouth to say. This contestant, Adriana Abina, she was caught using her iPhone with Shazam on it during the name the song portion.
Sure.
But here's the thing that I think is so cute about this. She was cheating, of course. That was not allowed.
Backtrack, though. In the years this was happening, Shazam was a fairly new app.
Yeah. This is long before Apple bought it. Yeah, this is 2014.
Really early on in the song identification.
I think a decent number of people didn't know this existed.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't know that Shazam actually existed. And this was when Shazam was trying to figure out their model, right? They were trying to do advertiser engagement based on commercials on TV. They were trying all sorts of stuff.
This woman has her phone and it's lighting up.
It's literally on her lap.
Yeah, every time they're playing a tune.
Yes, and she's looking down in between, the desk and her lap to look for the answer. And the host, Christian Galvez, who apparently has eyes and can see, spotted the cheating in real time and teased her on the air, right?
Didn't take away her phone.
Well, he said in 7 years of organizing this TV contest, nobody has ever done anything like this, and certainly not as brazenly.
Sure.
She laughs about it and literally holds her phone up on the air to show what she's doing. And everyone kind of laughs. They give her a hard time. And she admits that she's just terrible at this.
At identifying songs, right?
Identifying songs. And that was why she did it. So unlike these previous examples, right, where the scandals end up in people not getting paid or these congressional investigations, they didn't pursue any legal action at all.
This is just a comedic moment.
It became sort of this meme, right? I think they got a little better not letting it happen again, because it happens a second time, you probably look pretty silly. It's actually kind of fun that she did this just so brazenly. It's fantastic.
Okay, and finally, we're dialing up the Darkometer all the way.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about the serial killer who won the dating game, and how close was his date to danger?
Oh, yeah. What a great way to end this segment. Go back, 1978.
Yeah.
Host Jim Lang introduced one of the bachelors, Rodney James Alcala, as a, quote, successful photographer, saying between takes, you might find him skydiving or motorcycling.
Sure.
And while likely true, what good old Jimbo left out was that Rodney was in the midst of a killing spree.
You might find him doing some other things as well.
Yeah. When he's not cleaning the blood off his hands. So Alcala he's a huge dry cleaning bill. Alcala was also known as John Berger or John Burger. There's an E and a U,
which
by the way.
sounds identical.
Yeah,
yes.
they do. But just in case you're looking at your notes, he was an American serial killer and convicted sex offender who ultimately was sentenced to death in California for 5 murders committed between 1977 and 1979.
And my apologies for laughing at this. If you're related to any of these people, it's not funny. I realize it is so off the chart awful that you kind of have to laugh.
You can't not. I mean, now remember, so these murders were committed between 77 and 79. This show was taped in 78.
Yeah.
So I'll let you folks at home do the math. He had compiled a collection of more than 1,000 photographs of women, teenage girls and boys, mostly in sexually explicit poses.
He was a photo collector anyway.
Sure. Apparently he also liked taking long walks at night by himself and meeting new people. This is just so terrible. Jed Mills, who was a fellow Bachelor contestant on the episode, later described Alcala as a, quote, very strange guy with bizarre opinions. But Alcala still won the competition, won a date with the episode's bachelorette, this woman Cheryl Bradshaw. She subsequently refused to go out with him because she found him creepy.
Yeah.
And after the show taped, she called the producers and said, I get a bad vibe from this guy. I don't want to go out with him. Is that okay? To which the producer said, yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Of course, you don't
have
need
to go out with him, of course.
And so I read this and I'm like, well, wait a minute. What tipped her off during the show that he was creepy? Like, what happened? Was it just a vibe? What was it? And I went and I looked and pulled some of the transcript of the show. During the episode, the Bachelorette Bradshaw asked the three men various questions, including, what are you called and what do you look like? So Alcala, the serial killer, replied, I'm called the Banana and I look really good. And Cheryl asked him to be more descriptive and he added, heal me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh yeah, that's about a 9 on the creepy scale. Maybe a 9.5. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, he was tied to 9 murders. He was potentially involved in...
He was conclusively linked to 9 murders in the end. The true number of victims remains unknown and could be as high as 130.
Yeah, and he won the dating game, and just on a lark, she decided not to go out with him.
It's absolutely nuts.
Okay, we have to get out of here quickly before we do. Have you seen or read anything good this last week? And I'm guessing you have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know what I want to say. But I'm not going to do it, Jeff. I'm not going to take the bait.
Okay.
In researching anything about game shows, you're bound to come across a documentary from 2017 called Perfect Bid, The Contestant Who Knew Too Much.
Yeah.
And this is by CJ Wallace, who, to my knowledge, there's no relation.
Because you share the same first names?
Yeah. Good job. You're amazing. This documentary profiles Ted Slauson, the guy I talked about earlier from The Price is Right, who's an elementary school mathematics teacher, super fan of The Price is Right. Interviews with Slauson reveal how he became fascinated with the show in the early 70s, which drove him to memorize the price of products, and his involvement with the contestant Terry Kniess, who we talked about in 2008, also who gave no credit to Slauson. It's a really fun documentary, and if you like this episode that we're talking about here or The Price is Right, I'd recommend you watch it. It's really, really fun. I'll put a link to Perfect Bid on YouTube in the show notes. It's a good time. But
what's the show you really want to be recommending?
Okay. So the show that I really wanted to recommend is Sermon on the Mount, which is the premiere of South Park's 27th season that aired last week.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. I literally had 3 people, 2 of them listeners of the show, text me at night while it was airing 5 minutes in and say, you have to turn this on right now.
Oh, yeah.
Which, of course, I did because I'm a sucker.
My phone lit up.
Yeah. So Matt and Trey deliver just yet another amazing satirical look at our today. The episode is hysterical. It's rule bending. It's limit finding. And it's well worth a half hour of your time. But I'm not allowed to talk about it because you haven't watched it yet, Jeffrey. So the perfect bit it is.
I promised my kid we would watch it together.
Yes, that was a week ago.
I know. We will have watched it by the next episode.
Anyway, we're going to go with the perfect bid, and maybe next week I can recommend Sermon on the Mount if you've seen it by then. How about you? What have you seen?
I will have seen it by then. My recommendation is, of course, the 1994 film Quiz Show. Robert Redford's gripping drama exposes the scandalous truth behind the 1950s TV quiz show 21. Ray Fiennes shines as the charming contestant Charles Van Doren, whose meteoric rise is fueled by deception. As an investigator uncovers the rigged game, the film brilliantly dissects fame, integrity, and the corrupting allure of ill-gotten success. Everybody is in this movie. John Turturro, Rob Morrow, David Paymar, Hank Azaria, Mira Sorvino, George Martin, Griffin Dunn, Timothy Busfield, Martin Scorsese, and Barry Levinson, just to name a few.
Wow, literally everybody.
It's good to have Robert Redford's Rolodex.
Yeah, right.
Quiz Show, available for rent or purchase on YouTube and Google Play Movies now. Also, if you have a library card, you can likely borrow Quiz Show for free through Hoopla Digital.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Also worth noting, so when Redford produced Quiz Show, was putting it together, he offered Van Doren
To be a consultant.
from 21 to be a consultant.
Sure.
And Van Doren refused. Again, not to be on air or anything, just to be a consultant, which is basically like, hey, we want to pay you to help us shape the show or shape the film correctly.
Make sure we've got everything right.
And he refused. And Van Doren didn't even talk about this after his congressional testimony until basically his deathbed, a year before his death.
Yeah.
He talked about it. He was unwilling to talk about it in that whole time, which I thought was pretty fascinating.
Interesting.
But believe it or not, I've never seen Quiz Show, so I'm going to have to check that out.
It's terrific. That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense, truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Stu.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, My Favorite Overcast, wherever you may get your podcasts from.
Nonsense is initially recorded using Audacity, 32-bit float recording for the highest quality sound. Audacity, like 95% of everything we use at Nonsense, is free and open sourced. If you need to make high-quality recordings, check out Audacity.
And maybe you'll learn to use it correctly, which I clearly have not. We'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday mornings for more nonsense. Please join us. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
A serial killer won the dating game.
So there were 2 other contestants.
There were
that
2
she
other
didn't choose.
contestants. that she didn't choose.
What did they do?
What the hell is wrong with those guys?
One of them is responsible for genocides in whole nations.
The other one's an accountant. Bachelor number 1, I'm a serial killer. Bachelor number 2, I'm an accountant. She's like, oh, I don't know.
Not you guys, no.
I'm going to go with...
Can I have the serial killer?
Recent or currently? That's her follow-up question. Rodney, have you gotten it out of your system or you still have a tendency to murder?